I played a lot of my rugby at my club, Tunbridge Wells. Went there when I was 6. When I went to senior school, my senior school, Tunbridge Wells Boys Grammar, we used to play football in the first term, and then it was rugby from Christmas onwards. So all the other big schools used to play, big rugby playing schools used to play rugby first, and so it seemed like rugby was very much an add-on. So we weren't any great shakes. We took it seriously. We played, but we weren't playing against the top rugby schools. And for that, I never went to any county trials up until I was 18. So it was my first county trial was in my first year as 18 group, and I got into Kent then. In the second year, I managed to play for London for England schoolboys after that. But that was my first bit of representative rugby was a 17-year-old. When I started playing, I was never. Rugby was still an amateur sport back in the early 90s, and so rugby was always my passion, but it was never something which I looked at for a career. So I always said to myself that when I left school, went to university, I'd find a job which, up until I was 26, which just supported my rugby playing and my rugby training. And at 26, I looked then, pretty much everyone who played for England played round about 26. So I knew that was my goal. I said, right, I'll give it till I'm 26. If I'm going to make it, I would have made it by 26. If I haven't made it by then I'd look to do something else. So I went away to university and at Newcastle, played for Newcastle, Gosforth as it was then. And then as I left then, I went to Bristol, and the game went professional then. So then rugby actually just became a logical step that I was playing. So I was playing Premiership rugby, and then it turned professional, and so I was able to have the best of both worlds then. The transition, again, it's all these transitions. Everyone talks about transitions, but I always, when I look back and when I was going through it, they were just such small steps, and I never look. When I look back now, it seems like a huge change, but then it was a little step. I was playing first team junior rugby, as I said, at Tunbridge Wells. Then the next step was going to Newcastle as a student. I was playing for the university, and I was also I started off playing for the under-21s and the second team, and then we got the lucky break. But in terms of the qualities, I knew early on, and I spoke about me as a child growing up. I never massively shone. I was never the star player. It was all I wanted to do was, I loved what I did, and I just made sure I just did it to the best of my ability, and that probably was more reflected in my training as opposed to on the field. So I think what I did more than most, I probably applied myself on the training field, and that was my big strength, was how hard I was prepared to work for the game. When I look back on my career, without doubt the biggest influence on my career are my parents. One, they introduced me, and my dad introduced me to rugby, took me down when I was 6 to the mini rugby. Always made sure when I was growing up, ferried me everywhere, whether it's mini rugby Sundays, whether you're playing for your school on the Wednesday. The kit's always there, kit's always available. But then there's always comes the tough part when you're 16, 17, 18. There's so many other distractions, and you need that nurturing through that period, because it's very easy to just go off the rails.